really curious to chat with today's guest. I met Jenn at a business conference last year, and I was just so impressed with how enthusiastic she was for helping other women, and that is something right up my alley as well. By day, Jenn is a public servant working for the government, and when she's not working in her day job, she has this really beautiful business that she is creating. She's an aspiring entrepreneur, and she's on a journey to manufacture corporate wear for women that's both professional and fun. And I am just busting to find out all about that, because clothes, fashion, style are right up my alley, and helping women to be feel absolutely amazing. So Jenn, welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I'm so excited to be here and very much looking forward to taking you on the journey that is Peak Women.
Yeah, Peak Women. So we'll have the details of where you can find Jenn in the show notes. What I like to do to start off the chats, Jenn, is just find out about my guests, sort of what stage of life they're at. So what are the things that are happening in life, the key things that are happening in life for you at the moment?
So I have been in the public service for over a decade now. Yeah. As part of that, I have lived all up and down the east coast of Australia. So at the moment, I'm in Canberra. So I moved from Cape York to Canberra about 5 years ago. So when I say East Coast, I've done the tip of Australia.
East Coast for our international. Yeah, our international listeners, Cape York, where's that?
It is the tip of Australia, so pretty much as far north you can get in the mainland of Australia. Yeah. Papua New Guinea was the closest kind of landmark, with Cairns a little bit further away for anyone.
What were you doing there? What took you to Cape York?
So the public service work that I do, I worked up there for the federal government, just managing kind of import-export of bulk materials up there. So it was a very interesting place for me to work, obviously completely different to Canberra. I always say that I have travelled all over the world, but the biggest culture shock I ever had was moving from North Queensland into the capital of Australia. And it's kind of, this is where I've really worked on kind of how I like to present myself from a professional point of view, because in Canberra, obviously, we're engaging with government, we're engaging with industry, we're engaging with ministers and the like. So it's really kind of allowed me to shape who I am from a professional point of view and as a leader as well.
I love it, because you are in a leadership role, aren't you, in your day job? Yeah.
Yes. And I work with a lot of quite high-ranking senior public servants and engage across government at the quite high level. So it's quite interesting for me and helps me really shape, what is a good leader and kind of those what not to do lessons as a leader in some instances as well.
Oh, do you know what? That's where I've learned. I do a lot of stuff in the leadership space, and I think I have learnt more from shitty leaders of what not to do and the impact of what that is on the people. And I've actually got a client this afternoon, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about, is what are the qualities of a good leader, and for her to be able to come up with her own leadership kind of model, that authentic leadership as well. Yeah. So how did you get into, tell me, let's go back a little bit. Where did you grow up? Where was your place of work?
I was born in Sydney, and we, as a family, we moved up to Brisbane and then back to Port Stephens. So I kind of went to a couple of different schools, and then lived in Newcastle, did my undergraduate at Newcastle University. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I didn't do very well in my HSC.
That's the higher school certificate, so that's a leaving certificate, before you enter into university. Your
last year of high school. So I didn't do very well there. I was kind of just like a lost child. I went to a school for gifted and talented students, and I used to say that I was kind of the dumbest of the smart kids, because I just didn't really fit in anywhere. So I went through a little bit of, depression. I was diagnosed with those sorts of things and just didn't really know where I was going to fit in. And I did try, and I did try for police force, and I did try for military and all of those sorts of things. But I just, because I'd had this thing in my record, I just never ticked enough boxes for them. So I had to find my own path, and I ended up, I did an entry program into university once I'd finished high school. And when I did my undergraduate, I just picked courses that resonated with me. So I've got some really random courses that I did, none of them related to fashion. But I did, first year Latin. I did history of witchcraft in medieval times. I did sexuality in antiquity, and all of these really fascinating subjects. And that's all the stuff that I remember, like world religions and the history of Japanese culture and all of that sort of stuff. And that's the bit that I really remember. All the really important stuff that environmental sociology. I'm like, I don't remember anything.
That's interesting, isn't it? And it's interesting people's pathways to university or to future study, education, living life. Some people go for a very defined outcome. So to learn to be a, something, whatever. And others go to learn and things that they're interested in. And for me, no right or wrong. It's just a interesting journey. And there sounds like some really fascinating, oh my gosh, we could talk about those topics just on the top podcast, but we won't. There's some other things. So so after uni, what happened then?
So then I went off and I worked in a couple of different places. I worked for a construction company that works specifically in refractories, so kind of heat-proof linings of everything that we, like when we build a furnace to process raw materials into metal, for example, that has to have a refractories lining in it that's specifically designed for that particular process. So I went and worked for those guys for a little bit while I was doing my undergrad and while I was doing my honours thesis. And then I went off and I worked for a not-for-profit, Life Without Barriers, that actually they work with people with disabilities. So they run day programs and group homes, but also foster children with high medical needs. Awesome. So I went and worked with those guys, and then eventually ended up in the public service that way. So and then continuing to do another couple of years of university, just because I still didn't quite know where I wanted to land. And so I've got a master's degree of international security studies, and I've got a graduate diploma in policy and applied social research. So it's all a little bit all over. Oh my
gosh, it's so eclectic. And I love hearing people's kind of paths to where they are now. I just find that so interesting. And especially when you were saying that you weren't quite sure what you wanted to do, that's very, very common for people, and sort of feeling a little bit lost and just let's see where the waves take us. And it's really interesting. I just love hearing that. And sometimes we're not even aware of the pieces, how they all fit together, until we get to a point and going, I can see why that was part of my path, even though at the time it might seem a little bit random. Eclectic, I would say, for you, very eclectic and very lots of interests there, lots of interests.
Yeah. It's I always look at it, and I've given this advice to school leavers and to graduates, because especially starting out as new in the public service or in any career, it's how do you stand out from the crowd when when I started in the public service, we all got trained in the same things, so we were all putting the same things on our resumes to say, hey, I can do X, Y, Z, and you're not really standing out from that. So then having that additional qualification, I went and got a Cert 4 in training and assessment, and a Cert 4 in WHS and those sorts of things as well, so that I just had that little bit extra. So depending on which path I wanted to take, I kind of stood out and was a little bit more competitive when it came to shortlisting and getting myself to interview. So on paper, I just had like one extra tick that people could go, oh, yep, that means
That's
that
what
she's a
we're
better candidate.
Yeah. And it's also about adding to your toolkit, isn't it? About all those elements that add to your toolkit of life, but also in the workplace as well. And just kind of taking yourself to that next level. And what value you can add as well. Love it. Love, love, love. Is there anything from what was growing up like for you? So you sort of said that you were in the gifted and talented program at school. So obviously you would have gifts to be in that program, have the program. What are some other sort of things that stand out from you about growing up? Anything, key things from growing up that have sort of helped you in your where you're at today?
I spent a lot of time kind of, I never really stuck with one clique of friends at school. I always, I went and hung out with usually a different group of people every day almost. And it just kind of, I can adapt to situations, and I love like just engaging with people, and, people just assume that I'm an extrovert, but actually on the Myers-Briggs scale, I'm only like that little bit of an extrovert and also an introvert. So I get energized by talking to people at the time, but then I usually need to go home and kind of have a rest day after.
Have a wind down. Yeah.
But so being able to talk to different people and adapt communication styles and being able to just kind of slot into different situations, I find has been quite good, particularly, as I've gone throughout my career and engaging with different cohorts of people and at different levels. I'm not, I don't kind of get lost in different crowds.
Yeah. And probably when you said you moved schools a number of times as well, like that's something that can, that's a really great skill, I think, to have, just to be able to be flexible, adaptable, and just work the room, and sometimes it's stressful. I find it stressful sometimes. Tell me about this gorgeous business that you are embarking on. I want to know all about that. Tell me.
So because I've got a particular way that I like to dress, I have a lot of kind of thoughts on how we should dress from a professional perspective. I'm a little bit of a conservative dresser when it comes to these things, but from a professional perspective, I have been in uniform roles throughout my career as well. So some of that is definitely imparted, but also a lot of the stuff that I've been kind of picked up on as a younger person when I first started working in Coles and all of that sort of stuff. You can't wear a black bra under a white shirt, all of those sorts of things. So I've just kind of really got this background of how we dress is important.
Yeah.
And so, I had a lot of people saying to me things like, "Oh, you always look so lovely," and, all of that. And I was like, I literally bought this dress at Target. Like it's not that I'm going out and spending a lot of money, because I don't have the budget to spend a lot of money on clothes all the time. And so I really, had a lot of people coming to me going, "Oh, I couldn't dress that like that, or I couldn't wear that, or I don't have those options." So I really wanted to think, it's like when you go, I really need a yellow top for this event that I want to go to, and it's the one thing that you can't
don't
find. And then 6 months later you'll find it and you're like, "Oh my goodness." So I went, you know what, maybe I should do this myself. And I was working in a whole of government task force post as part of the COVID recovery, where we were engaging with entrepreneurs and trying to really build up economic stability in Australia again, and bring new industries into the country. And I thought, I could do this. I could start one of these businesses, and I could give this a crack. And so it just kind of started to evolve into something. And so basically, I'm going to give you the official pitch now that I've been working on. Perfect. And for your listeners, I would love you guys to give me some feedback on how this pitch goes. So Peak Women is a social impact brand that is by women, for women, supporting women. We have partnered with a manufacturer in Vietnam that employs women in need to create professional clothing with a side of fun. Research says when you wear a blazer in the workplace, you are more likely to make decisions and speak up in meetings. So our designs have positive affirmations hidden throughout to empower while also being comfortable, practical, and full of pockets.
Oh my gosh, Jenn, I love that. So many elements to that there. So the first part was about a social impact. So Peak Women is the name of your business.
Yep.
And it's a social impact business for women, by women, supporting women. I'm not sure if I've got that in the right order.
By women, for women, supporting women. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's I really, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I was doing was obviously ethical manufacturing, because
absolutely,
there's no point in me trying to create a business that's building up women on this side, but then is actually taking advantage of women in a different situation on this side. So it really was important to me to find a manufacturer, and I was lucky that I found these manufacturers quite early on, because it's not something that's very important to a lot of the manufacturers. Like, I don't think brands are pushing that. They're pushing all of the sustainable fabrics, and there's a lot of greenwashing that happens in the design industry. And I could talk to you all day about why, you know, sustainable fabrics aren't necessarily that sustainable, because I've tried to find one that and particularly one at a good price, but all of them have a little bit of negative impact in them. But I really wanted to focus on that social impact instead. Because, you know, to me, it's about all women, and you know, the by women part is about the manufacturer, but also me making sure that I'm partnering with other female businesses, female-owned businesses, because again, you know, building up other people and other women in their own industry is also really important. So that's where that aspect comes from. And then the for women is obviously that it's specifically a brand for women to help them feel more empowered in the workplace, and to help them with their mindset and understand the psychology of how we dress. And then there is an opportunity, obviously, to change that a little bit down the track, and have a look at more gender neutral and members of our LGBTIQ community and those sorts of things. And then the supporting women part is still some of that messaging and understanding psychology, but also the intention is that once I launch, there's going to be profits that will be donated back into other not-for-profits that are supporting women to get back on their feet. So it's going to be an end-to-end whole kind of, sisters doing it for themselves type movement.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I think that's obviously why we're in alignment as well, that for me, a big part of what I do is helping women supporting women. It is about, I love the blokes, absolutely love the blokes, but I'm very much drawn to supporting, collaborating, championing other women. And it just brings this beautiful, just that whole vibe about things. And I think just the meaning behind what you're doing is just so beautiful. And it's about that serving other people. Sure, you could make a kick-ass business out of it, and you can do both. But sometimes when people are led with, I'm going to make a kick-ass business, just brings a different energy around it. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. So you've got the social impact part of it. Tell me about, so when the research is that when women wear blazers in the workplace, that they are more likely to speak up in meetings, and what else was that you mentioned? Make decisions. So tell me about that. Yeah.
So a lot of us go through imposter syndrome, self-doubt, all of these things. And particularly in a big meeting room, or if we've got a presentation that we need to do, or even an interview, like, women are less likely to apply for jobs that they're more qualified for than men. Men will look at a job and go, oh, I can do 80% of this. Or women, will look at it, go, I can only do 80%. Maybe I shouldn't apply. Men will go, I can do 10%. I'll like shit this in. And they'll get the job, because we'll feel like we can't even apply for it. So, it's about understanding that, you do belong to be here. And, you know, you do deserve that pay rise. You do deserve that promotion. And how we actually change our mindsets to do that. I liken how you get dressed of a morning to listening to your favorite song on the way to work when you know you're going to have a bad day. So, you know, if you've got to put Taylor Swift on and just shake it off because haters going to hate, you know, you also need to think about, how am I dressing? Because if I feel important and empowered and like I can do the job on the inside, I'm going to present that to the world, and then the world is going to perceive me in a certain way. So it's all about making sure that we're doing that in a way that is important for us, but still hits those professional marks that are going to, you know, break through that unconscious bias, the conscious bias that people just aren't saying out loud, and all of those things. Because while it would be nice for people not to judge us on how we dress, it's a fact that that is still happening. So let's take advantage of that, and let's put ourselves at the top of that, you know, the most competitive category, because we walk in looking professional, feeling professional, and we just end up smashing the presentation or the interview or whatever it is that we've got for that day.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. What do you, and you kind of answered it anyway, about what would you say to people who say we shouldn't judge people based on what they wear? Like, what's your, you kind of answered that, but what, because there will be people that'll say, well, yeah, we shouldn't be judging. We should accept the person for who they are and not, you know, not judge them on their appearance or age or anything.
It's all in context, and it's about people, you know, if you're applying for a job in a small business, if you're employing for a job with the government, if you're working for a big corporate like PwC, EY, you know, some of the big legal firms in Australia and more globally, they want to know that you are going to represent their organisation professionally and in a way that is going to make the clients or their stakeholders feel comfortable. So if you were a customer that was going to a cafe or going to the dentist even, and the person that's touching your food or putting their hands in your mouth are in dirty clothes, they've got greasy hair, like they haven't brushed their own teeth and they're at the dentist, you're going to form a certain feeling about that individual, and you're going to not want them to do anything unhygienic, whether they're unhygienic or not. You're going to get this image of them in your mind. So it's the same way when it comes to professional dressing in the corporate world. You know, you need to represent the organization in a way that's going to make the clients and the stakeholders feel like you are putting your best foot forward on their behalf, as well as the leaders in your organization that are supporting you to do that. So, you know, let's stand out for the right reasons and take advantage of that bias by, you know what, yes, it would be nice if it didn't happen, but it happens. So how do you put yourself in the best position to take advantage of that situation? Yeah,
I love it. People do judge. People say, oh, no, I don't judge people on appearance. It's happening at a very subconscious level quite often, and sometimes more often than not at a conscious level. But people will sum up other people often within the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, you know? And usually they don't even know why. They'll just say, it's just a vibe. I just don't like that person.
It's just a vibe. And they're making a whole lot of like I was at the picking up a parcel at the post office yesterday, and there was one person on the counter. There was probably 20 people in the line, and there was 4 people in the background, obvious to all of us, who were just chatting and going very, very slow, and we're all just waiting there. There was I'm not sure if you've been to the Mitchell post office, but there was a pile up of cars and people were getting really irate, and I was making these judgments going, oh my God, this is so inefficient, like blah, and I'm sitting there and just making this story in my mind. I've got no idea exactly why those people were being very slow and inefficient, but I was judging, and it wasn't necessarily about what they were wearing, but it was about what they were doing in the whole system. So people do make judgments, whether you admit it or not. And I really loved what you said there about, you know, let's use it to our advantage. Use that to our advantage. Cool. So that's love it. Tell me about the affirmations in your clothes. I love that idea.
So because of this research that says if you put this jacket on, you're going to, automatically empower yourself, right? Yeah. I have included in the design messaging within the lining in particular of the jacket that, has a positive message. It's just for you. Nobody else is going to see it because it's on the inside. Yeah. And so when you put that jacket on, it's going to give you that little bit extra thicker armor to be able to go out and face your day. And so it's just, you might not even read it every time, but it's just that subliminal messaging that they're putting it back into your mind, and helping you to just get ready to whatever the shit fight is that you're going into, like you're ready to take it on.
It's almost like it is like your super cape, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you know what it is about? I use clothes very much. Like, I love clothes. I absolutely love clothes. I use it to enhance my mood, to also help get out of certain moods.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscious about the way I dress for the people that I'm meeting. And I don't do it in a manipulative way, but I match, like I'm coaching this afternoon. I've just got shirt and jeans on today. I'm coaching their senior executives, but we actually meet in a fairly relaxed environment. This is we're midway through our coaching program. I know them, and it's about a relax. If I was to go in all honesty, today in a blazer and a suit, it's too formal for what I'm wanting. I'm wanting my clients to be relaxed. And so I'm very conscious about how I dress, and it's also the mood for where I'm at today as well. But I'm in a different environment. I'm not in the office environment all the time. So I use clothes in part of my, I was going to say, messaging for other people. It's about helping to build, rapport. That's part of that's not the only thing I do, but it's part of it. I'm very conscious about where am I going to be today? What am I going to be doing? What mood am I in? What do I want to be bringing? What do I want to be covering up? And all sorts of things like that. So the affirmations what are some of the affirmations have you got those off the top?
So I'm thinking of flipping them at the moment, because at the moment it's very much a second person tone.
Sure.
And I'm about to turn them, I think, so that it's more about you. And at the moment, the lining of the samples that I have say, being you is your superpower.
Yeah.
And I just want to flip that a little bit to being me is my superpower. Yeah. So it is that affirmation that you put into your head. But it's just those little bits and pieces that, just to remind you that it's okay. You are amazing. You're going to smash this day. And I've got a whole heap that I've kind of played with and written down. And occasionally I change when I'm, my manufacturers must be going crazy, because I'm like, no, let's change that again.
And I'm going to talk to you about the manufacturing process in a minute. And what I would think by the affirmations and that can be part of the empowerment of the garments, but I would also be predicting that it's the energy that's going into them. So when you've talked about who's manufacturing and the whole social impact, that energy going into the garments is part of that as well, at that very kind of subliminal energetic level. I think that's beautiful.
Very much so. And I think that purchasing it and wearing it is going to be, you're going to feel like you're part of that bigger,
exactly,
that bigger process of by women, for women, supporting women, because that by wearing it, you're supporting the women in need in Vietnam. By wearing it, that by buying it, that you're some of that money is going to go into the not-for-profit. So you're part of the cycle, and you're part of that community now.
I just think that's amazing. Love it so much. What stage of so this is very early, you're talking about samples, so you're at sample stage, aren't you? You've got some samples for this.
Yes, so I've received my first sample just at the beginning of the new year, and I've been trialling it. If anyone wants to have a look at any of my reels and stuff on Instagram, it's me trying to work out reels at the same time as take videos of myself and pictures of myself wearing these and road testing all of the clothes. But the manufacturing is, it's very much a backwards and forwards process. It's all through email. They've designed for me, the technical specifications and all of that sort of stuff. I finding all of the prints or creating the prints through my graphic designer myself, and then trying to match up some colors. There's, as with any business and trying to start any business, there are hiccups along the way. And I go through this point of, I'm like, yes, it's like a roller coaster. I'm like, yes, I've made a decision. I'm going to do this thing. And you go, dum, 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 and then you hit a point and they're like, that's no longer available, or that won't work. And you go, whoa, what am I going to do now? So you just kind of sit there for 2 days going, I don't know what to do next. And until you kind of go, right, I've made a decision and I'm off again. And you're back on the upswing. And it's this real emotional, draining journey that you really is just constantly the ups and downs. And when I met you, actually, Catherine, I was just pulling myself out of a rut. I engaged, I started first talking to the manufacturer like 12 months ago, and I got to a point where they said, okay, well, we need to know what you want on your labels. We need to know this. We need to know this. And I went, I don't know how to answer any of these questions. I don't know I realized I actually don't know what I'm doing. So I paused and I went off and I got some mentoring and everything from fashion experts and all this sort of stuff. But I actually engaged with one mentor, and she was, I don't think she 100% understood. I hadn't really worked out the brand by that point. And she didn't understand what I was trying to achieve, and was like, well, maybe you actually need to go black and you need to do grey and all of these things. And I thought that's the complete opposite of what I'm trying to do. Why would I manufacture a black suit when you can go and get every female store available? So I went through this real low period where I just couldn't do anything besides post on social media random quotes and all of that sort of stuff for 3 or 4 months, where I just didn't know what to do. And I finally went to the business conference where we met, and I realized these are my people. This is my tribe. And I'd been doing this all virtually and on my own. And when I finally sat down and spoke to people about my plan and like-minded women, I went, this is what I need in my life, just to help me get back on track. And so that gave me the kick in the pants that I really needed to launch back into this. And so the one positive that time gave me was that I spent a lot of time thinking about, well, what do I want to do? What is the meaning of the brand? And now that I know that, I was able to eventually go back to that manufacturer, because people were suggesting manufacturers in China. They were suggesting a range of different options that just didn't fit with the social impact that I was really trying to have. So I'm really grateful for, as much as it was a difficult time and I'm kind of 6 months behind where I'd like to be from a business startup perspective, it really allowed me to nut out those details that I needed to be able to make some really clear decisions going forward.
Oh gosh, that is just such I think that's a gift for you, and we don't often see them as gifts at the time when we're frustrated. And it's really about getting that clarity, that it's about what is your why and what is your clarity. And sure, we can get other people to help us get that clarity, because sometimes it's really hard to get it in your own mindset and thinking. Like, you become so insular, sometimes you need somebody to help draw that out. But one thing I find when I've had my own coaches, the ones who get me and what I'm about have been effective. The ones that tell me that I should do things a certain way and I should do this, I should do that, I should use this word and not that word, it's just like, excuse me, fuck off, sorry, because they don't get me. So they're giving advice based on their view of the world. And what I am kind of hearing you say is that by just being asked those questions about what to put on your labels and everything, and not really knowing, coming back to what's your why and what is the business about, and now you get that direction to move forward. And you'll get to another point, that you'll go, oh man, I'm not clear about this next point. But if you've got your foundation of what the business is about, then it will just flow so much easier. So,
yeah. And the one thing that I've realized, both from my own experience, but also people that I do a bit of mentoring for in my day job, I've had people come to me and go, I really want to apply for this job, but my boss told me that I'm not ready, or people have told me it's a bad idea. And, while everyone's always coming usually from a place of good when they give you advice, the one and only piece of advice you ever really need to listen to is take the bits of advice that resonate with you, and then fuck the rest off. You don't need that. Like, if it's not going to work and it doesn't kind of align with you, then there's no need to listen to any of that. Just take on the bits that only matter, and then do what you want to do.
Yes, and listen, I think it's about
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, reflect, and use the bits that are good for you, because you are right. Most people do come from a place of intention, but I get frustrated when people don't. They're just very free to offer advice when they're not really in tune with where the person they're offering advice to is at. Yeah. And so you're doing this on your own. I mean, not on your own, but it's your business, isn't it? On top of a day job. Yeah.
Yes. So I am basically side hustling for now. And I've managed to move to a compressed week. So I'm still doing my 38-hour full-time week, but I do it over 4 days. So I work 8 till 6 over 4 days. And then I have 1 day a week off. At the moment, that's usually a Wednesday. So that makes it a little bit easier for me to really focus rather than kind of pick out an hour here and there. It also gives me an opportunity to leave the weekends mainly for non-work related stuff. I can go and socialize, I can walk the dog, I can go play golf if I want to, rather than kind of just be constantly on all of the time and burning myself out along the way. Yeah,
that's such an important message for me, but for lots of women as well, feeling that we, whether we're working a full-time job, not working, family, just trying to make sure everything's perfect. And quite often we just, we're the ones that are neglected by that. So it sounds like you've got some really healthy practices and boundaries in place. So what's in the range? What garments are in the range? They're all going to be in the range. Yeah.
At the moment, it is just a jacket and pants.
Yeah.
And that is a dark print.
Yeah.
And then there is going to be 3 jackets, 3 pairs of pants. And so there'll be 2 matching colours with the print. So it's kind of it all matches from a colour perspective. And people look at it and they go, oh, I couldn't wear the full suit in the print, but I really like the jacket, or I'd wear the pants. And so that way, if you want to mix and match and wear, at the moment, the print that I'm working on is a kind of pink and green, dark green floral pattern with a black background. So I've got like a lighter pink version, and then a tealy color version as well. So if you want to get like the pants in all the colors and then just the jacket, like all the pants in the 2 solid colors and then the jacket that matches, you can, so that you're not, it's what suits you. Like I'll wear both and, at the same time, and I wear them separately as well. But it's kind of what's going to work for you, and what's going to give you that little bit of extra oomph without you going, oh my God, I'm wearing this giant suit that everyone's just like, it stands out to absolutely.
Oh my God, I would so wear the full suit. I would so wear the full suit. When's it? When are you likely to be launching? I know that's still a little way away.
Well, at our conference, Catherine, I wrote myself a 6-month letter to my future self that said, congratulations on your launch, but that's like only 2 months away, so I'm not quite ready yet. So I'm thinking that it will be middle of the year for the first launch of the range. And I'm also, in the back of my mind, I'm now thinking, how do I add in an extra piece or 2 so that then I can then expand the range a little bit? So adding in a dress that you can put the jacket over the dress, or something like that, and just working through that at the moment, because when you're doing a product-based business, it's so much more expensive to start by yourself, and when you're bootstrapping it. And so it's, you've got minimum order quantities, and you go, I really want this, amazing sustainable fabric, but they're like, well, that's going to be double. Or I really want this amazing color. Well, that's going to be triple, because we have to self-dye that. So, having to make all of these decisions to be able to go, okay, how can I launch it in the most cost-efficient way that's still going to be a product that people are going to want to buy is really important. So that's why I've cut my range. I had a whole heap of things. I cut it right back down to just the 2 items of jacket and pants, and then that way I can just add one piece.
Then you can build on
it. A new colour range.
Yeah, and you know what? That sounds really sensible as well. And you'll have a range of sizes. I could imagine, Jenn, that the stock of it, like you'll have sizes, different sizes. So do you have to order minimum quantity for each size?
Not each size. So it's minimum order quantity per colour per style. So for a jacket in this colour, I need to order a minimum of 50. So, and then I have to order, even though I'm using the exact same fabric for the pants, I then have to order a minimum of 50 for those pants as well. If I want to pick my own colours and get them to dye it for me, then that's 120 minimum order quantity, just because that's how much it will take to dye the whole roll. Wow. They need to use that whole roll. So it's and then so at the moment I'll end up with 300 pieces in my tiny little office here. And I was like, if I start doing 100, that's like getting up to 800. I can't do 800 pieces off the bat. So that's one of those things where I had to stop, because I wanted to do like a really emeraldy green color, and I wanted to do an indigo color, which is the same color as my brand color. And I picked that specifically because of the empowerment connotations that color has. So I was really struggling with, that's what I really was set to do, because that would also be a great way to, me to wear the indigo suit that represents Peak Women as a brand. But I've had to
cut that,
pivot on that, and go to a different couple of colors.
It's interesting, isn't it? What have you learned about yourself in this process? Oh, I just bit my tongue. What have you learned about yourself in this process?
How not to bite my tongue. It's that I really am stubborn, because the amount of times where I could have just gone in, a lot of people would have probably just gone, this is all too hard, I'm not doing it anymore. But I'm like, I've put it out there to the universe. I've told people, I'm on social media, I'm doing all of these things. I now, if I fail, I want it to be because, not because I gave up. And so, I probably already knew I was a little bit stubborn, but could
I flip that? I would say that you're driven.
Capricorn. I'm very driven. Very driven. The other thing that I've learned is I've realized that I was probably always leading here. When I tell the story about, people always say, are you a sewer, or is this, do you work in the fashion industry? And I'm like, well, no, I don't. But, my mum is, and, she went to TAFE and she did tailoring, she did pattern making, she did milling, she did all of these things. She worked for David Lawrence and Table Out 8 and all of those brands when she was younger. And then ran her own business creating dance costumes and school uniforms and wedding dresses and all of those sorts of things. And I did work for her in her business when I was in university. But I remember deciding when I was about 12, you know what, I'm going to create a market stall at the local school fete and sell fluffy cushions in like star shapes and heart shapes and all of these pretty colours and stuff. And then I decided at about 16, I thought I'm going to manufacture lingerie when I grow up. So I went and did my work experience week in a shed in Wollongong, where they were manufacturing local lingerie. And I worked there for a week. And then in my last couple of years at school, I actually went and did one of the more creative courses, and I did textiles and design, and we had to do like an end piece. So when I start thinking, I also did that, and I'm like, it kind of makes sense.
There are pieces
where I've ended up. Yeah, I always think of myself like I can't draw any of my designs. My mum does all that for me. And I'm always like, I didn't think of myself as a very creative person, but I have the logic behind it, and I think through the psychology of it and the practicality of it. And so, the designs are very specific when I go, okay, I want to make sure that they're comfortable. Nobody I know owns an iron these days, so I need it to be iron free and wrinkle resistant. Why can't women have inside pockets in their jackets like men get to have? And just thinking through things like in the pants at the moment, there's a little tiny inch or two of elastic on either side, just behind the hip, so that you can eat lunch and it moves with you. And you don't have to go, oh, I'm having a fat day or a bloated day, I can't wear these pants. So it's about thinking through the practicalities of how we dress and trying to incorporate some feminine logic.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. Actually the way we design clothes.
I love that you can sort of see the pieces from younger, how they feed into now. But like you said, the logic, the psychology, you don't have to be the seamstress. You don't have to be the pattern maker. It's about outsourcing the parts of your business and collaborating with people that that's their zone of genius and you use yours. And then it's about bringing that all together for the end product, which sounds just divine. Just before we sign off, what are some things that fill your cup? I think probably this is one of the things that fills your cup. What else do you do? What do you do for fun?
So the things that I get really passionate about, obviously besides empowering women and helping women to understand that, they are amazing and they can do hard things, is one of the things that I always really enjoy talking about is also leadership, as we talked about earlier, and I get very passionate about that. And I'm very lucky to be working with an exceptional leader at the moment him and I are just on the same wavelength when it comes to the importance of leadership, and also, the different contexts of leadership. And we're quite often making similar decisions based on that. So I'm really enjoying that space. And, I do try and do some less, ambitious things, less driven things. At the moment, where my partner and I are spending a lot of time kind of planning our next steps in our life and what that's going to look like. So, I've got my baby that is the business, and then hopefully we'll be, working on expanding our family and stuff as well. So a lot of really fun planning things and everything at the moment. And then, just engaging with family and friends and like-minded people, and how we can work towards a goal.
That's beautiful. The like-mindedness is a really important element for me, because I get a lot of energy around people, but the like-mindedness and that community, and it just tends to, I get very inspired by others. I love that. Oh, Jenn, this has been just beautiful. Remind us where people can find you, please.
So on Instagram is probably the best place. So that's at Peak Women, PEAK Women. And, similar, that's got a Linktree link on it that will take you to everything else if you want it. I am in the process of building my website at the moment. It's not launched yet, but I'm in the process of building my website just so that I can start blogging on some of these things.
Perfect.
And sharing that messaging. Reach out if you want to know more, or if as I said, you've got suggestions on my 3-sentence pitch. It's possibly a little bit too long still. And I'm just sharing at the moment. I'm sharing the journey. I'm getting everybody to provide feedback on the samples and what they look like, and if they'd wear it, and suggestions and stuff. So really keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and if there are any women out there that would like to get not just to look at the samples, but even to get involved, I would encourage them to reach out. And
definitely, I'll be looking for some models and some testers.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much. Beautiful. Love it.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Catherine. Really appreciate it. And
hugs and
have an amazing rest of the day.
Yeah, you too. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So here's a little bit of bonus goodness. Jenn and I just finished the podcast chat, and we were talking about like daily practices. And one of the things that Jenn does is set her intention for the day. Tell me about, I do that. Tell me about your version of what you do.
I mean, obviously there are so many ways that you can do it, depending on what works for you. But one of the things that I do of a morning is I make sure that I spend, 5 minutes just journaling. I do a 1 page.
Yeah.
And, the first thing I write on the page is where I'm at in my cycle. Yeah. Because I know that where I'm at in my cycle is obviously going to impact what's going to happen throughout my day and how I'm going to feel about things. So I make sure I know where that is to give myself a break when I need to, and to know, oh, this is a great day. I'm really in the kind of engagement zone, so I'm going to be out and I'm going to be chatting to everybody. But then the second thing is I write what my intent is, and I just pick one word that just comes to mind for the day, and I think about what's coming up in the day and how I felt yesterday, and what do I kind of want to feel about the day. And usually, some days the word is productive, some days the word is chill, some day the word is tenacious, and it really just depends. And I had a couple of weeks ago I had a really rough week in my day job where I basically I'd put on 2 hats. So I was managing 2 completely different streams of things, and I'd had to say to people, I need you to kind of, I'm going to lean on you really heavily in both aspects because I can't do it all. And I found that, setting my intention for the day to just be, I can't even remember what the word that was that I used, but it was like, today my intention is to just be, focused, or to be productive, or to be, hyper aware or diligent, or whatever it was. And I just felt like at the end of the day, even though I was rushing here, and here, I feel like at the end of the day, I still managed to achieve that word.
Yeah.
That is what I managed to achieve. And so the rest of it, if things fell over and everything else, I at least felt like I had succeeded in my day, because, when something came up, I didn't even have to think about, how am I going to manage this? I already knew how I was going to manage it, because it was that word.
Because you'd set that intention.
I set that intention that I was going to be calm. That was the word that I used, calm. I'm going to be calm today. Yeah. So that as things came up and different priorities started slamming down on me, I was able to remain calm as I worked my way through them. And it wasn't until I got home at the end of the day and I thought about it and I went, wow, I can't believe how much that actually had helped me. And I have been doing this for 6 months, but it was just, that was the first time that I was able to reflect positively and go, that really connected.
It's actually working. Yeah.
It made sense to me. So it was quite interesting. Obviously, I also then do, one thing I'm grateful for, and then I just kind of scribble about how I'm feeling about whatever it is. But I find that that intention setting is the thing. You can meditate on it or whatever.
Yeah, and it's almost like the micro version of setting your intention for the year. Like I start out and I have goals, absolutely, for the year, but I have an intention of how I want to show up for the year and what that is around. And then I do a similar thing. I don't sort of set an one intention for the day. I go through, part of my morning practice is thinking about, what do I have coming up today? Like, part of the process is, what am I doing today? So we're recording this relatively early in the morning. I've already had a US call this morning, so a 6 a.m. call. So my intention starts actually the night before. So it's about setting the intention that I will be wake up, and I wake up alert and refreshed anyway. But I've got a series of coaching appointments today. I've got some other things going on in life. So I sort of think through, I almost do a fast forward of what my day is and how do I want it to go. So it's kind of your, the same as you, what the intention is, that, when I'm with the clients, so, helping them to achieve positive outcomes. When with the podcast, I have a series of intentions around how, and a process for the podcast. And the US catch up that I had this morning, it was to get a particular outcome, and that just blew my mind. That was even more than exceeded what my expectations were. So it's the same sort of thing, but I love how you're capturing it in a journal, and also like just what is my key intention for today.
Yeah.
So to help it flow, but also for the people that feel that they're not achieving very much, they can come back and say, well, actually, I achieved a lot. It might not be the tick box of things that are off my to-do list, but I actually was calm today.
And, for even just, I know that I'm at, this point in my cycle, I know that my period is due or whatever it is, to then go, today my intention is to relax.
Yeah.
And today to take it easy, like that is my intention, so that I'm not I'm not putting that pressure on myself to still be achieving and to be pushing through, because as you said, I'm a driven person. So today I don't have to be driven. Today I can curl up on the lounge with my cup of tea and a book, and that is my intention for the day. And so I don't feel guilty about not achieving at the end of the day.
I see that. I call that like a self-honouring choice, that you're actually making those self-honouring choices. And some days it's our self-honouring choice is I just need to do what I need to do to get through the day. That is sometimes, but then, oh my gosh, Jenn, beautiful. Love it. So thank you again for that little added tidbit of
you're welcome, my love.
Just inspiration. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.